Black lives, white supremacists, two catchphrases in America right now. But America's story, we can tell you, is not black and white. It's full of grays. There are protesters for a cause, and then there are hooligans looting stores. They cannot be clubbed in one group. They're not one movement. A lot of these people are clearly breaking the law. What would you call them? Rioters, looters, hooligans. The President of America called them thugs. That was last week. Now he calls them terrorists. Well, we know Trump is given to drama, but even by his standards, this may be a stretch. Can you brand these people terrorist, a word that has been associated with the likes of Osama bin Laden and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi? Well, Donald Trump believes so. The US President recently retweeted a letter. It was from John Dowd, a former attorney of Donald Trump. The letter is addressed to one Jim, perhaps James Mattis, Donald Trump's first Secretary of Defense. It reads, and I'm quoting, "The phony protesters near Lafayette Park were not peaceful and not real. They are terrorists using idle, hate-filled students to burn and destroy." The letter goes on to say that the protesters were abusing and disrespecting the police when the police were preparing the area for the 1900 curfew. The curfew at 7 p.m. The reference here is to something that happened on Monday. Protesters were violently dispersed from a park near the White House. And this letter calls them terrorists, and Donald Trump is endorsing this view. Now, I don't want to get into Trump's history with tweets, so let me run a fact check. There is ample footage from Monday's protest near the White House at this park. It shows two things. One, there was a lot of tension, and two, there is no evidence of any violence. And again, I'm not saying that there is no violence or no looting across the United States. The US is engulfed in riots, and we have been reporting and condemning this every day. And that's exactly why I can say that the protests outside the White House on Monday were not among the violent ones. Not violent until the cops entered the scene. Protesters were tear-gassed, shot at with rubber bullets. Journalists were targeted, and this happened at 6:30 p.m. local time, 30 minutes before the curfew came into force. Do you know why? For a photo op. Donald Trump wanted to stage a photo op with a Bible. It was for the shutters that the people were shooed away with tear gas. Now, these protesters are being branded terrorist, and this is not a first. Listen to what Trump had to say earlier this week.
Capitol, the Lincoln Memorial, and the World War II Memorial have been vandalized. One of our most historic churches was set ablaze. A federal officer in California, an African-American enforcement hero, was shot and killed. These are not acts of peaceful protest. These are acts of domestic terror. The destruction of innocent life and the spilling of innocent blood is an offense to humanity and a crime against God.
This clip is from the 2nd of June. Can you term the conduct of rioters as acts of domestic terror? It's a very tricky one. Here's where we stand. Nothing justifies destruction to life and property. Those endorsing violence must be punished, just like the murderers of George Floyd. But branding all protesters as terrorists cannot be justified, just like the murder of George Floyd. But branding all protesters as terrorists cannot be justified, just like the murder of George Floyd.